So my talk is called The Power of People Watching. I'd like to start by testing your people watching skills. I'd like to do that by asking you 4 questions. So if you've got a pen and paper ready, then write them down. But if not, then just make a firm mental note so you can't change the answers later. Question number 1, how old am I? So not how old are you, how old am I? And don't worry about offending me. I've done this lots of times before, and believe me, there's no answer you could write down that would offend me more than I've been offended before. And actually, I'm not actually going to ask you to share it with anybody anyway, so be clinical. What you honestly think. How old am I? No, write it down. Don't shout it out. I will. Second question, what did I study at university? Now, I know you don't know me, but use your Sherlock Holmes skills, your power of observation, your experience, and make an educated guess. What did I study at university? Question number 3, what's my favourite film or movie? Now, I could say use the Force, but I don't want to mislead you, so. And the 4th question, I just want a straight yes or no for this, so nothing in between. Don't hedge your bets. 4th question is, do you like me? Yes or no? Again, I'm not going to ask you to share it, so just be clinical. Now, I will come back to that, I promise, but I don't want to use my 18 minutes, tempting though it is, just to talk about myself. I would also like to talk to you about a man called Tom Harrison, because Tom Harrison was the inspiration behind the Mass Observation Survey in the 1930s, and the Mass Observation Survey was in turn the inspiration for the JamJar Story Project. And I'll talk to you more about that later, but essentially the JamJar Story Project is a digital archive. It's a social media platform where people upload video footage of their everyday life. But Tom Harrison was so much more than just the Mass Observation Survey. He was, in my opinion, the world's greatest ever people watcher. Before the Mass Observation Survey, just out of interest, he moved to Bolton in the north of England and worked for 11 hours a day in a cotton mill just because he wanted to see what working life in pre-war Britain was like. And when he was at school, he didn't have many friends, bless him, so he kept a card file, like an Excel spreadsheet, but a card file on all his classmates, where they went, what they did, what they wore, everything about them. And we all like to think we're good at people watching, but somehow Tom Harrison looked with a different kind of intensity. And as would-be people watchers can learn a lot from Tom Harrison, but the main thing is very simple. We simply cannot understand people unless we watch them first. So when he was 21, he went east to Borneo and he studied the Dayak tribe in Sarawak. But instead of doing what every other anthropologist had ever done before, which was ask a stream of meaningless questions filtered through a prejudicial Western lens, he immersed himself in their culture. He took a wife. He lived as one of them, and later he in fact fought alongside them in the Second World War. And after he'd immersed himself with the Dayak people, he then moved to the South Pacific island of Malekula and lived with a tribe of former cannibals called the Big Nambus, and did exactly the same with them. And after he'd lived with the Big Nambus, he wrote a book, an infamous book called A Savage Civilization. And the reason that book was so controversial was the savages in A Savage Civilization were not the former cannibals of Malekula, but they were us, the Western imperialists, who in Tom's opinion were attacking the Big Nambus way of life through a lack of understanding of their traditions and rituals. He watched the Big Nambus with the same intensity that he'd watched his classmates at school, and he had a different sort of understanding. So I've spent most of my career in the market research industry, and that industry wasn't to a certain degree inspired by Tom Harrison and mass observation. It's now a $60 billion industry. But most of that industry has forgotten what Tom taught them, which is you have to watch people to understand them. So take baked beans, the great British baked bean. If you want to understand why the baked bean market is in decline, and you ask people why they're eating less baked beans, they will give you a list of logical, plausible, bland, and often incorrect reasons. They will tell you, oh, well, they're too messy, or I don't like the tin, or they've got too much sugar in them, or there are tasty alternatives. Any number of things which sound plausible, all of which are probably wrong. If you really want to understand why people are eating less baked beans, you have to do what Tom did. You have to watch. You have to immerse yourself in the home. So what did we do? 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we'd come home from work and we'd be hungry, or school, and we'd be hungry. We'd open a cupboard, we'd see, oh, there's some biscuits, there's some baked beans, and we'd have something to eat. What do we do now? We come home from school or work, we're still hungry, but we don't open the cupboard, we open the fridge, and we see some yogurt, we see some cheese, we might see some milk, and we're tempted to have some cereal, and we eat something different. That is why the baked bean market is in decline, and no amount of questioning of consumers was going to give you that answer. You have to watch to see. And the reason watching is so important is that visual clues are so much stronger than verbal clues. Some research in 1993, I think this is amazing, it showed that students could correctly identify the quality of a teacher by watching just 10 seconds of a class with the sound turned down. Teachers they'd never seen before. In fact, it was less than 10 seconds with the sound turned down. And their scores correlated very closely with the ratings given by the pupils who'd been taught by those teachers for a whole year. At Princeton University, they did some research that showed we can correctly assess how attractive we find somebody by looking at a photograph of them for 1/10 of a second. Correlating again back to the same people looking at the same photographs, but for a much longer period of time. So, a few moments ago, I asked you to make some snap judgments about me. I just walked on stage, didn't know anything about me, probably hadn't even checked the agenda. And here I was asking you to tell me what my favourite film was. Now, you might be right or you might be wrong. Depends on how Sherlock Holmes-like you are. But the point is, you've now got to heard me for 5, 10 minutes. You probably won't want to change what you wrote down. In fact, we could probably go for dinner tonight and you still wouldn't significantly change what you wrote down after I'd walked on after just a few seconds. But you need to know, so for the sake of it, I will tell you. I'm 49. Yes. No, don't say yes, say that's unexpectedly old, is what you meant to say. I did this with a group in Sweden quite recently, and a group of them guessed my age as 10 years older than I am. And I have to admit, I did go home and have a haircut. We're not completely immune to it. What did I study at university? I studied history, maybe some clues there with mass observation and so forth. What's my favourite film? Well, does anyone really have a favourite film? But if they do, my favourite film today is Boyhood, the Richard Linklater film that won a BAFTA last year. It's a wonderful film, if you haven't seen it. It's a film about how individual moments combine together to express a life. But you can give yourself a point for Pulp Fiction, Usual Suspects, or Casablanca. And then, do you like me? Well, I'm not going to ask you to share it, but the answer to that is, of course, if you watch me, then you'll understand me. And if you understand me, then you will love me. So the answer to that is, yes, you do. No marks for no. But the other reason I wanted to talk to you about Tom Harrison was I wanted to talk to you about the Mass Observation Survey. So those of you that don't know, the Mass Observation Survey was absolute pure brilliance. It was set up in the 1930s, and it was a network of volunteers from all walks of life, up and down the country, who recorded their everyday lives, actions, thoughts, worries, aspirations, in a diary. And those diaries are still available today at the University of Sussex and are used extensively by historians, researchers, and geeks like me. And it may sound simple, but in the 1930s, believe me, this was mind-bendingly innovative. And Tom's diarists embraced it in the same way that we now embrace social media, observing and sharing on a daily basis. So at JamJar Story, we want to continue Tom's work, and we want to create a digital archive of our life today. And of course, we're sharing more than ever before, so it should be easy. But there is a problem. And the problem is, we don't share our everyday moments. We share the exceptional. The rules that govern social interaction are, by and large, the same rules that govern what we share. They are kinship, dominance, and attractiveness, and therefore we tend to share things that are interesting, funny, beautiful, or useful. But in doing so, we are sharing a distorted view of the world. And I wanted to think how to illustrate this to you. And I thought, well, I'll have a look on YouTube, and I'll type into the YouTube search bar a couple of everyday activities just to see how things are recorded. So I chose two that are common on JamJar Story. I chose taking the dog for a walk. Lots of people do that. And I chose brushing my teeth, which most of us do at least twice a day. So when I typed in walking the dog, taking the dog for a walk, I got the very first result was of a dog that can walk on its hind legs. It was actually quite a sweet story. This poor dog had lost both of its front paws, and it was struggling to walk on its hind legs, and it was doing very well, and it was quite happy. And it was an engaging video, but definitely exceptional. When I typed in brushing my teeth, the first half a dozen were how to whiten my teeth at home. And then next one down was a video of a popular YouTuber who was cleaning his teeth with Nutella. And then the next one down, I've got to show you. I tried to explain it, but I can't really explain it, so I'll show it. This is on the front page when you type in brushing your teeth. I'm going to show you once more, but it's just funny. It might be, I don't know what you call that, beautiful, funny, interesting, but it's certainly exceptional. So at JamJar Story, we want to offer a real alternative to the social media platforms where we share the exceptional. We say we want to take the extra out of extraordinary. And this isn't about big data and artificial intelligence. This isn't about large, shadowy organizations collecting and correlating information about our shopping habits. It's the opposite of that. This is small data. This is individuals openly and willingly sharing aspects of their everyday life so that other people can see and look and understand. And on JamJar Story, as we said at the beginning, we've got several hundred videos of people who are doing just that. And do you know what? It's strangely reassuring. It's actually quite liberating to see the wonderful, ordinary, simple lives as a benchmark for ourselves. Now, to illustrate that, I've put together, not a unicorn cleaning its teeth, but a montage of 1 minute taking aspects of the videos that are currently on the site, videos that people have openly and willingly chosen to share with us. It's just a minute long.
Breakfast now. She's a croissant. So it's Thursday.
Just close. There's a voice.
You get the idea. To me, that is just a celebration of ordinary life. And at JamJar Story, we hope we can create a digital archive that future generations will be able to use to look back and understand how we live our lives today, just as people are using the mass observation survey to understand how we lived our lives in the 30s and 40s. But actually, I hope it can be more than that. I hope that people from different communities, different countries, from different walks of life can use this to watch and understand other people. To be able to go and watch a video from someone from a different walk of life and say, I've watched you, I've understood you, I like you. And surely that can only make the world a better place. Thank you.